To today's webinar on achieving cross-system reactivity with your cron jobs. What we're going to do today is introduce you to Automate Schedule, which is our cross-platform enterprise scheduler that will allow you to combine those cron jobs that are running on multiple multiple servers, maybe in multiple applications, into one schedule. My name is Pat Cameron. And I am, as soon as I get my slide to switch, I am a Director of Automation Technology here at Help Systems. I've been here for many years, and I've worked with a lot of our different products, mostly in scheduling and operations. That's where my background is. I was an operations manager at a hospital here in Minnesota, where I'm located today. And I work with a lot of our customers doing demonstrations and training on the Automate Schedule products. I'm here today with Keith Fuller, who is over in our fleet office over in the UK. Welcome, Keith. Good afternoon.
Good morning, Pat. How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. So how long have you been with Help Systems, Keith?
I have been with Help Systems almost 10 years now. It's gone so quick, but I've enjoyed every minute of it, watching Skybot turn into Automate Schedule and working with all of our other lovely products.
And I think you and I are some of the originals with the Automate Schedule product, aren't we?
Exactly, yeah. I remember it from the day it was born.
Yeah,
Just like
exactly, because it's about 10 years old. Yep, just like you. That's awesome. So what we're going to talk about today are some of the pros and cons of scheduling with Cron. And I know a lot of our customers start out with Cron on their Linux and Unix systems. And then we'll talk about some of the advantages of using an enterprise scheduler like Automate Schedule. And some of the main points are that the ability to be able to combine and consolidate your schedules, notification, high availability, being able to roll over to another system, and some of the security options that we have. So I have a few slides that I'm going to go through and talk about those. And then Keith's going to take us online and show us a live demonstration of Automate Schedule and some of the features that it has. I am recording today's session, so and I'm sure you'll get a link to it when we're finished today. So if you need to look back on anything that you might have missed or maybe share it with somebody else at your organization, you're welcome to do that. Also today, if you have any questions, just send them to us in the question box that should be up on your screen, and we will make sure that we answer them. Like we said, Keith and I are have both been working with this product for a long time, so we kind of know it inside out and backwards. And we also need to, at times, have come up with some very clever scheduling when we need to for our customers. So let's take a look at Cron first. So a lot of customers use Cron. It does have a lot of advantages. It's free. And that's one reason that sometimes when we are competing with a free product, it makes it a little bit difficult. But I've talked to lots of customers over the years that use Cron to schedule their jobs on their Unix and Linux systems. And it is great for simple job schedules. If you need something to run every day at a certain time, certain days of the month, any type of interval that there is, it really does a nice job. And we use that cron scheduling within Automate Schedule sometimes because of the features that it has, so we'll integrate with that. But some of the complaints that I've gotten from customers are that they don't like how they have to edit the cron tab files. Some of them have had a difficult time with the editor. Another had to have their developers write some scripts to manage those resource dependencies that there might be, dependencies based on files or based on other jobs. Difficult or impossible to do that within Cron specifically, so they have to do some development in order to manage those types of schedules. And this makes their scripts a lot more complicated than they need to be. One customer commented that they weren't a programmer and that felt like he really didn't understand how Cron worked. And I think that's true. Often companies will like to have maybe production control area or the operations area do the scheduling and not the developers. Leave them to develop new programs for their company. One of the other issues that have come up is that the inability to audit their cron jobs and track who made changes, when were those changes made, and those types of instances. Also with cron, a cron instance will only serve one system. So they're very spread out across multiple cron tab files, maybe even within a server. In a single server, you might have multiple cron tab files and other applications, as well as those daily, hourly, weekly, and monthly run buckets. So sometimes it's difficult to kind of get control over what's running because you can have multiple cron tabs. And again, you can't set up dependencies across multiple applications or servers. So the other thing is, too, each cron tab has its own environment variable, so it's really difficult to share variable values across cron tabs or across different servers, certainly. Again, if you're running multiple cron tabs, you can only run a single command within an entry in that cron tab file. And so if you want to run multiple commands or, again, monitor for dependencies and resources, you'd have to write a script to do that. And because there can be multiple cron tab files, there could be contention across different jobs that are running, and you really do lose control over what's running. Operations, who typically is responsible for making sure that jobs run when they need to, make sure that they're running without errors and they're running on time, would have to log into multiple systems in order to see what's running where. One of the other things that I always talk about with customers is having a restart point. If you are running a script that has multiple steps in it within a cron tab entry, if there is a failure, it's difficult to have a restart point. When we take a look at Automate Schedule, you'll see that you could put those individual steps within a script on multiple command lines, and then you could set up where it is that you want to restart. So again, cron is great if your schedules are simple. There aren't any dependencies, and they're all time-based. But if you have any more complexity within your schedule, then it really is worth it to take a look at an enterprise scheduler, such as Automate Schedule. So let's take a look at it. When we talk about Automate Schedule, I like to point out that single pane of glass that's available for customers. So Automate Schedule can kind of sit on top of all of the different applications that you're running, and you can schedule those jobs from one single place. You can also monitor those jobs from that single view. We'll take a look at some of those views when we go online. So some of the applications that we run jobs with, kind of anything that has that can run from a command line or any type of a web service request. We can run all of those types of jobs from Automate Schedule. Automate Schedule really is kind of event-driven. 20 years ago or 30 years ago when I was in operations, a lot of our jobs were based on time. We'd run our nightlies, starting at 11 o'clock at night, and they would be based on time. But gosh, what we've seen in the last 10 years anyway is that often these jobs are now more event-driven. I'm waiting for another job to finish, and then I want this one to start immediately. I'm waiting for a file to arrive from maybe I'm a retailer and I'm waiting for those nightly files to arrive from all of my stores. And as soon as they arrive, then I want to be able to process them. So it's much more efficient if you can run your schedules based on those events instead of kind of building in time, hoping that that previous job is completed before you run the next one. You're really not taking advantage of the resources that you have and being able to use them a lot more efficiently. So one of the big advantages that we give our customers, I think, is that ability to centrally control all of the jobs across all of your servers and applications. As you can see here, we have a flow chart that will show in a nice graphical view what those dependencies are. Keith's got one that he can show you online, one that's real. So this is going to show you different jobs that are running. All of these jobs can be on different servers. The green boxes here are files that I'm waiting for, and the blue boxes are actually tasks that are executing. So those dependencies can be whatever is the requirement for your schedule. You can create jobs on multiple servers, so they can be dependent on one another across your different applications. And then when you look at the jobs and when they're running, or you can look at a forecast. So it's very easy to build a forecast, see what's going to run over the holidays, what's going to be affected by my month end, etc. We have lots of different views that are going to be enterprise views. I can see across all of my servers what's going to run next week, what's going to run tomorrow, what's going to run on year end, and what did run yesterday, and what ran last week. So all of that job history, you determine how long you want to keep it. So you can set a default at the system level, and then you can override it at the job level. We keep history on when the jobs ran, and we also will store job logs. So anything that gets written to standard out or standard error, we'll capture that information as well. We'll store it in the database along with that history record. And then every night, Automate Schedule does a cleanup, looks at the dates for how long you want to keep those history records, and then we'll delete the old records and also delete the old logs. So, I mean, I love job logs, being in operations, and, you know, whenever you want to do some troubleshooting, it's so nice to have a log that's got lots of detail in it. But you don't want your system to fill up with those logs either. So the system, Automate Schedule, kind of takes care of itself and cleans up that database for you, so you don't have to have a DBA get involved in your operations. System will do that. So centrally managing all of your jobs and having that control is a huge advantage in having an enterprise scheduler. The other one is notification. Call someone if the job fails. So we have lots of different types of events that you can be notified of. The system will monitor those jobs and watch for late starts, overruns, underruns, those types of events that you don't get a message for necessarily. Maybe you've got a job that tends to get in a loop and just runs and runs and runs. Well, you don't want to be surprised on Monday morning when you come in and see that that job is still running and none of the dependencies ran after it. So you can set up some job monitors. We put these into the product. I think they might not have been original, but they were no doubt in version 1.2 to watch for SLAs and to make sure that you don't miss any of those SLAs. So if a job is waiting for a file, if it's not in by a certain time, let somebody know. We can send email or text messages. We use SMTP for that. And we also can interface with your help desk software. I've got a little development instance of ServiceNow set up on my demo system, and I just send an email to ServiceNow, and it automatically opens an incident for me, attaches that job log to it, and notifies the help desk that there's a problem here and it needs to be fixed. So it's a really nice, simple interface for your help desk software. And then kind of the third thing, the big thing that an enterprise scheduler like Automate Schedule gives you is the security. So we will allow you to create different roles. We'll interface with LDAP or an Active Directory. You can create groups on that LDAP server that you might have a group with just view access. You might have another group, maybe operations that can execute, restart failed jobs, execute jobs outside of their schedule for exceptions, put jobs on hold, those types of activities, but not make changes to the jobs or not create any. And then you can have another group that can make changes. So you can be very specific in the type of role that you set up, and it can be based on business unit, it can be based on your job description. So I might only have access to a certain subset of jobs and not be able to even see jobs that other business units have. So we can be very specific, and we track all of the activities that are done. If I do run a job, we're going to track who did it and when they ran that job, if they did need to run something outside of its schedule. So and then also along with security, we audit all the changes that are made to any of the objects within Automate Schedule and track all those changes. I was just on with a customer that's looking at Automate Schedule the other day, and they had their SAP audit team on the phone, and they were kind of listing some of their requirements for auditing, and we met all those requirements. So we're going to track all the exceptions. We're going to track history of when anything ran. We're going to track the history of any changes that were made and make it very easy for you to report on that. We can have those reports sent directly to the auditors in whatever interval that they need it to. I think these guys only did an audit a couple of times a year, but we could certainly send those reports out daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, however they needed to see that information. Make it easy for them to find so that so that your system administrator isn't digging through old logs to find that information for them. So I'm going to pass control over to Keith.
Thank you very much, Pat.
Let him show you. We'll take a little ride through Automate Schedule.
Wonderful. So hopefully in a second you will see my screen.
I see a dashboard.
Wonderful. Okay, so within Automate Schedule, we provide a dashboard that you can access. You can kind of display the elements that you want to see and take away the ones that you don't want or don't need anymore. So it is fully kind of flexible. You can also change the size, so you can make these graphs a lot bigger or smaller, depending on the size of your screen and the information you want to see. So what we're doing here is we're just showing you how much of my system is being automated. So on my system, I'm obviously being very lazy myself. I've got the system doing 100%.
Right.
Makes a change. Then we got a kind of graph showing you completed jobs. So you can see when are your busy days. So my busiest day was yesterday by the looks of it. I ran a total of 22 jobs on the system. And then you can also see the terminated jobs. So we have 3 types of termination: cancelled, failed, and error. They all mean different things within the jobs, and they're easy to see on the color code. So you can see I've got a couple of jobs either day here that failed. We then have some graphs showing you the kind of peak performance of your systems, and you'll start to see kind of similarities between those on when jobs are submitted, when they're started, and when they're ended. So it just highlights if there's any delays from the scheduler to the agents and then back from the agents to the scheduler. Down here we have the top agents. So we track the number of job runs and also the job duration. And these graphs are designed to allow you to make the best use of your agents. PCs cost money, even Linux systems cost money. So to get the best out of them, we can actually highlight if a system's being overused. And like these two down here, they're not being used enough. So I can start moving jobs across to those if it's applicable. As Pat said, we log all changes. Again, I've been a very good boy. I've not made any changes on my system for the last 7 days. That does make a change for me. So again, we can go into there and we can have a look, see what's been changed. But I'll show you the audit log in a little while. We then have the agent events, as Pat said. We got files, directories, processes, and also manual ones. We can also monitor SNMP traps. And then we also have a graph for the job monitors, the overruns, the underruns, and the late starts. So that's the kind of dashboard in a general. We then also have some flowcharts. So as Pat showed you on her presentation, here's a flowchart that you can kind of see going on. Now this one is what I call the file locker process. So these 2 jobs try to run at the same time, but we put a lock file in place and that stops them running. So only one of these jobs can run at a time. So if I just zoom into here, you can see here, this is my first run. So this job will run, it will create my lock file. These jobs will run, and then this unlock will delete that lock file, which then allows the second run to take place. These 2 jobs run, and then once we get to the end, it unlocks. So we're ready for the next day's processing. So as you can see, you can put your own notes in here. You can put containers around certain elements. And I say it's very flexible and it's great for documentation purposes as well as seeing how things run. Now you are working with live data here, so you can go in, edit jobs, look at the history from this screen as well. So again, it's very easy to navigate around. So what I want to do now, obviously this webinar is about bringing cron jobs in. So what I've got on my system is I have a cron table entry. So you can see here I've got a number of jobs with different schedules. They're all running scripts. And I just now want to bring that into Automate Schedule to then allow me to move away from cron, if you like, and put those jobs into the scheduler. So all I need to do is if I go into my Automate Schedule agent directory, and then I can then run a command. So import cron, which is a script we ship with the product. And then I specify what cron tab I want to bring in. I then simply press enter, and that's now imported all of those jobs into Automate Schedule for me. So if I now come back into Automate Schedule and look at my import screen, you'll see I now have my cron tab file there created just now. And what I can now do is I can just right click on that to import into the job scheduler. This gives me the option, so I can either import all of the jobs, or I can be selective on which ones I import. So if I only want to bring them in one at a time, that's perfectly fine. But what I like to say is if you want to bring them all in, you'll see here, we can hold them when we import them, so they won't automatically run. You can then hold them within Cron and then release them in Automate Schedule in a kind of process that makes you happy and at your own speed. So there we go, and I'm just going to put them in as my agent user, and I'm just going to put a blank directory in. And then all I do is I just click on the import. It says, do you want to import these? Yes, please. Now, this normally takes a couple of seconds. There we go, that's all done. So now what I can do is I can click here to have a look at my jobs. So there are the jobs that I've imported. So let's just take a look at one of these jobs now. So if I go into here, you'll see we've kept the cron expression schedule type. So again, you've got that information there, but you now have the option to change that into one of our schedule types if you require, and it makes it a little bit easier to understand sometimes. And then we come down, so we can also give it a specific user to run as, and then we see the commands that we want to run. So as Pat said, we can have a number of commands here. Now, when we do this import, we actually bring it in twice, the command. One as a comment and one as the actual command. So you can see we've got this one hashed out, and it shows you the original cron tab entry. So once you're happy, you can quickly click on delete there, and then you've just got your script command there to run. We also have the option here to save job log, and that's nice and ticked for me. So if this job now runs, it will then allow me to view that job log and see the information about how the job is running. So if I click on save there. So that's my job in the system, perfectly okay. It can run when it wants to run. But what I actually want to do is I'm actually going to link that into the end of my job flow diagram. So I'm going to basically take the ASFL demo unlocker job, and I'm going to link these two jobs together now. And it's very simple to do. You simply right click on the job, choose edit, and put in a prerequisite. Okay, I now want to add a prerequisite, and I can choose either a job, or as Pat said, we can do event monitors, SNMP trap monitors. So we don't have to look at a physical job. We can also look at the monitors as well to trigger a job off. I then start typing AS, and there's my unlocker. On this one, I'm going to mark it as I'm going to react off of it once it completes, but you can see here we can do failure actions. If the job's cancelled, once it's running, once it's even just been submitted, we can start triggering off jobs. So we've got lots of options. So if I click on OK there, those two jobs are now linked. And as you can see, this flag here, it now changes from reactive no to reactive yes. So that's those two jobs together. And now if I go back to my job flow diagram and show you how the system works, if I now click on this down arrow, you'll see there is my job that I have just imported, and it's automatically kind of now updated that diagram, and I can kind of continue with my work. It's all very kind of straightforward. The other things to do is, as Pat said, we've got the audit history. So if I just refresh this, you can see the last entries here were on the 27th. So if I just refresh this now, you can see all of my updates, my creates, my deletes here. So I've deleted a command from a job. It will show me what that command was. If I've done an update to a job, then you can see what the original value was and what the new value is. So again, we keep that information if you need to roll back a step. So if a change that you make doesn't work, this allows you to go back and put the value there. And again, we log it by user, we log what type it is, we log what instance. We're not trying to get anybody in trouble. We are just trying to kind of give the information to people so that we can kind of find out what went wrong.
Make the auditor's lives easier too.
Exactly, and stops them kind of coming in and hassling you.
That's right. Get the information to them first before they come.
Perfect. Yeah. And then finally, what we've got here is the job history screen. So when jobs run, you'll see the status of them running. So we've now got this progress chart. I love this bit. It came in a couple of releases ago, and I've loved using it ever since. It kind of shows you the progress, so you can see how far the job's got through by looking at this history screen when a job runs. And if it fails, you know roughly how far through the job got at the point of failure. So again, it's very good information there. And if you want to view that job log, you just right click and you can download the job log into a text file. And there you go, there's my job log. That's all the information that I've retrieved, and I've exited with that code of 0.
And Keith, somebody had asked if we can drill into the dashboard, and I just answered that yes. And so this is the information you would see then when you drilled into the dashboard.
Correct. Yep.
This job history.
Yep. So
it might be filtered on just your failures.
Exactly. So if I want to pick a specific day, so let me go to this 5th day where I did 12 jobs. If I just click on that graph, it will take me to that page and it will just show me the jobs on that day. Okay. And then I can go back to the graph. Now, in the latest release, we have also put a link into our product called Insight. This gives you kind of a lot more flexible graphs. You can build lots more information, but we will be hosting a webinar hopefully on that coming up shortly. Okay, Pat, I think that's everything I've got.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let me just pass the presenter back to you. There you go, Pat. That should be all yours.
Oh, brilliant. All right, awesome. And right on time. So thanks, Keith, for taking us on a drive through Automate Schedule. If you have any questions, you can send them to us. But hopefully you can see the advantage of having an enterprise scheduler like Automate Schedule that gives you that easy-to-use interface. You don't have to be a programmer to understand editing a cron tab. Again, I think the big three, giving you that central control, allowing dependencies and event-driven schedules, and then the security and auditing. And that cron import function is a very easy way to move your jobs from cron into Automate Schedule. And like Keith showed you, when you do that import, your cron tab, we don't do anything with the cron tabs. We just make a copy of them, bring them over into our agent, and then you decide when it is that you want to be able to remove those jobs from the cron tab file and release them in Automate Schedule. We do have a number of automation products that work together. Along with our enterprise scheduling tool, we have an Automate, which is our RPA tool. So if you have tasks that are more interactive, maybe somebody needs to update spreadsheets for month end, or you need to log into a website and get some data from that website, or update data on a website, or some type of an application, we have an RPA tool that will plug into Automate Schedule as well. So we are expanding our automation tools, and we will be doing that in 2019 as well. So take a look at us if you have any type of automation needs. We will be sending out a Geek guide beyond cron that we worked on to give you some of the highlights of cron and some of the highlights of Automate Schedule. So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time to take a look at Automate Schedule. Like I said, we'll hang out here for a couple minutes in case anyone has any questions. If not, you are free to go. And thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Yep, thank you, everyone.